What if the most daring sci-fi movies weren't the flashy blockbusters plastered all over your streaming feed? What if the real treasures were buried deep in YouTube, waiting to be rediscovered by anyone bold enough to click play? Forget the overexposed mega franchises. These are the strange, eerie, and wildly imaginative films that redefined science fiction but slipped into obscurity. Are you ready to uncover the visions that inspired the hits you know today without ever leaving the comfort of your laptop? The Last Man on Earth, 1964. Picture this. Vincent Price wandering desolate Roman streets, a lonely man in a world that has stopped breathing. Long before zombies shambled across our screens in endless franchises, The Last Man on Earth laid the groundwork. Based on Richard Matheson's novel I Am Legend, this movie introduced the template that George Romero would later use for Night of the Living Dead. Every boarded-up window, every tense stakeout against the infected, Price did it first. Shot in bleak black and white, the film drips with atmosphere. Rome doubles as a ghost town, its empty plazas and abandoned houses making you feel like you've stepped into humanity's obituary. Price, usually cast as a master of gothic horror, plays it subdued here. His Robert Morgan isn't a hero. He's just a man clinging to survival, methodically going about his grim routine of daylight hunts and long nights under siege. Behind the scenes, the production was messy. Italian crews clashed with American sensibilities, and Price himself found the shoot exhausting. But the end product is a lean, haunting vision of solitude. Watch it now, and you'll see the DNA of every modern apocalyptic drama: lonely survivors, shadowy figures outside the window, the psychological toll of being the last human standing. This isn't just a relic. It's the patient zero of an entire genre. Planet of the Vampires, 1965. No, this isn't your typical cape-wearing bloodsucker movie. Mario Bava's Planet of the Vampires is something much stranger, a cosmic fever dream where alien possession meets space exploration. The film follows two spaceships responding to a mysterious distress call on a bleak, fog-drenched planet. What they find isn't salvation. It's a slow spiral into paranoia, body snatching, and doom. Here's the kicker. Ridley Scott openly acknowledged that Alien owes a debt to this film. Look closely, and you'll spot the DNA. The eerie landscapes, the skeletal remains of ancient beings, the sense of claustrophobic dread, it's all here, a decade before Alien terrified audiences. Bava was a master of doing a lot with very little. His budget was microscopic, but with colored gels, practical smoke, and haunting set design, he built a world that still feels unearthly. The crew's black leather uniforms gleam under lurid lighting, giving everything a surreal, nightmarish sheen. There are no massive CGI effects, just atmosphere so thick you can practically taste it. Critics dismissed it at the time, calling it cheap pulp. But today, cinephiles see it for what it is, a bold vision that blended gothic horror with interstellar science fiction. Watch it now on YouTube, and you'll find yourself transported to a planet where every shadow hides a sinister whisper. Forget glossy blockbusters, this is stripped-down, cosmic dread at its finest. The Day of the Triffids, 1962. What's more terrifying than waking up blind? How about waking up blind while man-eating plants are marching through the streets? That's the premise of The Day of the Triffids, a British classic that turned a silly-sounding idea into one of the most influential survival tales of the 20th century. The story begins with a meteor shower so dazzling that nearly everyone who witnesses it loses their sight. Overnight, civilization collapses. Into this chaos step the Triffids' towering, mobile plants, armed with venomous stingers. Yes, plants. And yet, in the hands of director Steve Seekely, they're scarier than any creature from outer space. The film's imagery still lingers. Blinded crowds stumbling through empty streets, once bustling cities reduced to chaos, and those puppet-like but strangely convincing plants creeping closer with every scene. It's survival horror decades before the term existed. You can draw a straight line from this movie to everything from 28 Days Later to The Walking Dead. Based on John Wyndham's novel, the film captures a deep Cold War anxiety. What happens when the thin fabric of civilization tears overnight? The Triffids themselves may look quaint to modern eyes, but the tension and atmosphere still work. Watch it now, and you'll see how much of today's apocalypse playbook was written by these lumbering green nightmares. Sometimes, nature doesn't need an asteroid or alien invasion. Sometimes, the houseplants revolt. First Spaceship on Venus, 1960. When people think Cold War sci-fi, they imagine paranoid American thrillers. But the Eastern Bloc was making its own ambitious visions, and First Spaceship on Venus stands as one of the most fascinating. Produced in East Germany and Poland, this film imagines an international crew launching a daring mission to Venus after a mysterious alien recording is discovered. What makes it remarkable isn't just the scale, massive sets, sleek spacecraft interiors, surreal planetary landscapes, but the cultural lens. Unlike the doom and gloom paranoia of Hollywood's Red Scare films, this one preaches unity. Scientists from different nations cooperate, blending optimism with foreboding. Of course, Venus isn't the paradise they expect. The explorers uncover evidence of a once-advanced civilization destroyed by its own destructive technology, a haunting mirror of Earth's nuclear anxieties. The film's visual design is ambitious, with towering futuristic cities and eerie desertscapes, created through practical effects and matte paintings. And despite its Soviet bloc origins, the movie gained a cult following in the West thanks to American distributor Roger Corman, who recut and dubbed it for drive-in audiences. Critics dismissed it as foreign fluff, but modern viewers can appreciate it as a time capsule of global sci-fi ambition. Watch it today, and you'll notice how its themes echo loudly in our era: environmental collapse, technological hubris, and the uneasy balance between progress and survival. It's not just propaganda or pulp. It's a reminder that science fiction has always been a shared language, even across Iron Curtains. The Incredible Shrinking Man, 1957. Here's a movie that asks, what if your greatest enemy was your own vanishing existence? The Incredible Shrinking Man, directed by Jack Arnold, is more than just a special effects showcase. It's a chilling meditation on identity, fear, and survival when the world itself becomes hostile. The premise is deceptively simple. Scott Carey is exposed to a mysterious mist while boating and slowly begins to shrink. At first, its awkward clothes don't fit, his marriage strains. But soon, he's battling for his life in his own basement. A dripping faucet becomes a flood, a sewing needle turns into a spear. A house cat is a monster stalking him through the shadows. What makes the film unforgettable isn't just the groundbreaking effects, though they're astonishing even today, it's the psychological weight. Carey isn't just getting smaller, he's losing his place in the world, his dignity, his very sense of self. Yet the movie refuses to give in to despair. Its final act, with Carey embracing his infinite smallness as part of something greater, is one of the most poetic endings in sci-fi history. Released at a time when audiences expected atomic monsters and flying saucers, this quiet, haunting film stood apart. Critics hailed it as profound, and, decades later, it still resonates. Watch it now on YouTube, and you'll see why it's considered one of the most thoughtful sci-fi films of its era. Forget giant robots. Sometimes, the biggest story is a man learning to survive in a universe suddenly too large. Journey to the Seventh Planet, 1962. If you've ever wondered what a fever dream looks like in outer space, Journey to the Seventh Planet delivers. This Danish-American production, directed by Sidney Pink, sets out with a bold premise. A crew of astronauts lands on Uranus, only to discover the planet is shaped by their own subconscious fears and desires. What could have been just another B-movie romp turns into a trippy meditation on the power of the mind. The visuals are surreal. One moment, the astronauts wander through lush forests and sunny meadows. The next, the scenery melts into twisted landscapes, ruled by an alien intelligence that feeds on their deepest thoughts. Forget laser battles. The enemy here is literally inside their heads. It's like Inception decades before anyone thought of folding cities or dreamscapes. Yes, the effects are rough around the edges. Matte paintings, rubbery monsters, sets that wobble if you look too closely, but the ambition is undeniable. The script doesn't shy away from big ideas. The thin line between imagination and reality, the fragility of human sanity, and the unsettling truth that our own minds might betray us. Critics at the time shrugged it off as pulp, but today it stands as a prime example of sci-fi punching way above its budget. Watch it now, and you'll see how its themes echo through later works that took subconscious horror seriously. It's campy, yes, but it's also oddly profound. Journey to the Seventh Planet reminds us that the scariest frontier isn't always outer space. It's what waits inside your own skull. The Creation of the Humanoids, 1962. Imagine a future where humanity has nearly destroyed itself, and the survivors are forced to rely on androids for survival. That's the premise of The Creation of the Humanoids, a low-budget but deeply unsettling gem that Andy Warhol once called his favorite movie. This isn't flashy science fiction. It's quiet, eerie, and philosophical, almost like a stage play with androids. The film takes place after nuclear war has reduced Earth's population to a fraction of what it was. To keep society functioning, humanoids robots, nearly indistinguishable from people, are created. Naturally, tensions rise between the dwindling human population and their mechanical counterparts. The central conflict isn't about explosions or cosmic battles, it's about identity. If these humanoids can think, feel, and even surpass humans in some ways, what separates us from them? Shot in muted colors with sparse sets, the film leans into dialogue-heavy scenes, but don't mistake that for boredom. The conversations are razor-sharp, forcing viewers to question morality, existence, and what it means to be human. By the climax, when the humanoid's true plan is revealed, the story swerves into territory that's equal parts chilling and heartbreaking. Audiences in the early 60 seconds didn't know what to make of it. Too cerebral for drive-in crowds, too pulpy for critics, it fell through the cracks. But looking back, it feels decades ahead of its time. Long before Blade Runner or Westworld, this film asked the hard questions about humanity's relationship with artificial life. Watch it now, and you might find yourself uncomfortable with the answers. Battle Beyond the Sun, 1962. Here's one of the strangest cases of cinematic transformation you'll ever hear about. Battle Beyond the Sun started life as Nebo Zoviot, a Soviet sci-fi film about a mission to Mars. But when it was imported to the United States, Roger Corman bought the rights, handed it to a young Francis Ford Coppola, and told him to Americanize it. The result is part Cold War curiosity, part monster movie oddity, and all cult classic. The original Soviet version leaned into optimism and scientific achievement, showcasing sleek spacecraft and bold visions of exploration. But the American edit added something very different: rubber-suited alien creatures battling it out in one of the strangest monster sequences of the era. Suddenly, a film about interplanetary cooperation became a pulpy space adventure, complete with wobbly monsters and melodrama. Visually, the film is fascinating. The Soviet production values shine through with impressive rocket designs and miniatures that feel surprisingly advanced for the late 50 seconds. Coppola's edits, though, give it a bizarre double identity: half serious science fiction, half drive-in spectacle. At the time, critics dismissed it as cheap, but modern viewers can see it as a cultural artifact. Two competing visions, the Soviet dream of collective exploration and the American appetite for thrills colliding in one film. Watch it today, and you'll get more than an oddball monster flick. You'll glimpse how cinema itself was reshaped by politics, markets, and imagination. It's messy, it's strange, and that's exactly why it belongs on this list. This Island Earth, 1955. Sometimes a movie becomes legendary, not for its success, but for how it gets rediscovered. This Island Earth is one of those films. Released in 1955, it was Universal's attempt at a prestige science fiction spectacle, and for a while, it worked. Audiences were dazzled by its glowing interocitor machines, colorful alien landscapes, and of course, the unforgettable Metalunan mutant with its bulging brain and insect-like face. The story follows a group of scientists lured into a mysterious project that turns out to be an alien recruitment scheme. They're whisked to the planet Metaluna, a civilization in decline, desperate for help against cosmic enemies. The sets are lush, the costumes are elaborate, and the special effects, particularly the mutant, became instant icons. But here's the twist. In later decades, the movie was mocked for its camp factor, most famously by Mystery Science Theater 3000. And yet, watch it seriously today, and you'll realize it was one of the first Hollywood films to tackle interplanetary politics and the futility of endless conflict. Beneath the foam rubber suits, there's a surprisingly thoughtful story about desperation and the cost of survival. Yes, it's dated, but in a charming way. Its ambition, scope, and visuals paved the way for future epics. Watch it now on YouTube, and you'll find yourself grinning at the camp while also admiring the craft. This Island Earth is both kitschy fun and a pioneering step in bringing cosmic wonder to mainstream cinema. Assignment: Outer Space, 1960. If 2001, A Space Odyssey, is the polished symphony of cosmic exploration, Assignment: Outer Space is the scrappy garage band version, and it works. Directed by Antonio Margheriti, this Italian production follows a reporter who boards a spaceship to cover routine space missions, only to become entangled in a race to stop a rogue satellite from destroying Earth. The plot is straightforward, but what makes the film memorable is its attempt to bring realism into a low-budget framework. The spacecraft interiors are detailed with blinking lights and cramped corridors, the astronauts debate procedure and ethics, and the visuals, though modest, show genuine creativity. Margheriti used miniatures, matte paintings, and clever editing to sell the illusion of deep space long before Hollywood perfected the formula. At the time, critics barely noticed it outside Italy, and it was dismissed as another pulp curiosity. But modern viewers can see how it quietly influenced the visual style of later European sci-fi, particularly the focus on everyday space routines rather than flashy heroics. It's science fiction as workmanlike duty, not just cosmic spectacle. Is it perfect? Far from it. The dubbing is clunky, the effects occasionally wobble, and the pace can feel uneven. But hidden under its flaws is a movie that tried to imagine space travel as something tangible, even bureaucratic, decades before mainstream cinema caught on. Watch it now, and you'll see a gem that doesn't shout. It whispers about the future in its own scrappy, inventive way. So, there you have it, 10 forgotten sci-fi gems hiding in plain sight on YouTube, each one stranger, bolder, or more influential than their reputations suggest. From Vincent Price's Lonely Apocalypse to cosmic dreamscapes and creeping plants, these films remind us that the genre has always thrived on daring imagination. Which one will you track down first? Drop your pick in the comments, hit subscribe if you love these deep dives, and get ready because the rabbit hole of hidden sci-fi only goes deeper.